Hi, welcome to Storytime. Today's story is another in the cycle of the Norse mythology. This is going to be the story of the war with the Vanir. Once again, this is kind of my retelling of the story, and it's one that I am going to read my notes on as we go through instead of telling it from memory. It's a little bit short, but it leads into the next one, which is really long. So I'll do that one maybe tomorrow. So yeah, the war with the Vanir. Over time, the Aesir and the Vanir both grew in numbers, and their realms bordered on each other, Asgard and Vanaheim. For most of time, they had been friendly with one another and allies, but there was a time in the early days of things that this was not so. The Aesir were powerful, but the Vanir knew the subtle and powerful magic of Satyr. The most powerful practitioner of this magic was Freya. Like Odin, she sometimes wandered the realms, but where he observed and tested and taught, she offered her magic for hire. She was wearing a disguise and going by the name of Heather when she came to Asgard. Why it took her so long to visit her neighbors, I have no idea. But when she got there, the Aesir were in awe of her magic and were eager to buy spells and services from her. Over time, they began to realize that the things they'd formerly thought were important, like honor and loyalty and order, were being forgotten in their selfish urge to have the witch manipulate reality to fulfill their desires. Being quite full of themselves and not in a hurry to accept that they weren't perfect, they blamed Freya, who they thought was Heather. Since they paid her in gold and had caused them to become greedy, they pronounced her Gulvig and burned her on a pyre. But she used her magic to escape the fire unharmed. So naturally, they tried again. And again, she used her magic to escape unharmed. And being firm believers in third time's the charm, or perhaps inventing that phrase in an attempt to counter her magic, they burned her a third time. And that just pissed her off. So she went home and told her twin brother Frey and her father Njord what had happened. They were obviously unhappy and went to Asgard to confront the Aesir over their poor behavior. But the Aesir were afraid and lashed out at the envoy from Vanir, which was a very bad decision. And so the Aesir and the Vanir found themselves at war. The Aesir were powerful but fought mainly with force of arms and following orderly rules of combat. The Vanir were likewise powerful and fought mainly with cunning and sneaky magic. They fought for years and years and ages, and eventually Odin, who could see all things from his high throne atop Hlidskjalf, saw that no one could win this war and called for a truce. He apologized to the Vanir on behalf of the Aesir and suggested that they trade hostages to formalize their truce. He set his brother Hanir, the wisest of the gods, Mimir, to live among the Vanir. From the Vanir, Njord and his children Freya and Frey came to live among the Aesir, which was very brave and a powerful statement since the Aesir had tried to murder Freya at the beginning of the hostilities. For the most part, all parties really did regret their previous behavior and wished to make amends. Njord and his children for the most part got along fairly well with the Aesir, and Freya even taught Odin the powerful magic of Satyr. Unfortunately, when Hanir gave humans the gift of intelligence, he gave away too much of his own. For unless Mimir the Wise was by his side, he was never able to give good advice to the Vanir when they sought it. He gave wonderful advice when Mimir could whisper to him, but on his own, he was a bit like a broken magic 8-ball and would say things like, "Come back and ask me later," or "Let's let someone else decide." Feeling cheated and that the Aesir had given them poor and unimportant hostages, the Vanir beheaded Mimir and sent his head back to Asgard as a message. Since they were unhappy with Hanir, I'm not sure why they didn't murder him, but perhaps they knew he was Odin's brother, and while angry, they didn't want to pick a big fight. Either way, Odin was very sad when he got his friend's head back, for he'd always found his advice useful. So he had the head embalmed and whispered powerful magic spells, freshly learned, over it. The head came back to life, and Odin hid it at the bottom of a well, so he could always get the wise counsel of Mimir should he need it. Not wanting to restart the war, he forgave the Vanir their misdeed and apologized for his brother's lack of wisdom. As a new way to seal the truce, all the gods from both tribes came together and spit into a large cauldron. Gross. And with each spit, every one of the gods from both sides gave a little of their wisdom. And when the cauldron was full, a new being emerged. Kvasir, the wisest of all beings, was born that day. The end. That is the brief story of the war between the Aesir and the Vanir. And our next story, I think, will be more about Kvasir. So I hope you tune in for that when it comes. And I hope you enjoyed this one. I'll see you next time. Bye.